I wanted to get a controller. They're expensive. These seems like my only two options, and they're both over 300 with shipping, and would probably take a month to get here. Multiply that by 2 so I can play DP, and you see the issue, which led me to this. This is the Korg NanoKey2. It has 25 keys and not much else. It's about the same size as my 68 keyboard, which is nice. I can put it right below without sacrificing too much room, unlike another keyboard. And there isn't an angle to it, so I can use it normally or upside down without it feeling weird. Looking at other MIDI controllers, I always imagine these buttons to be mushy and rubbery, like a TV remote, but that's not the case with the NanoKey. It really feels like a low-profile membrane keyboard with zero travel distance. In fact, if we take off one of the keycaps, it looks exactly like a membrane peg. There's about twice as much vertical space with each key compared to a normal keyboard, and each key has a slight wobble to it, but you really don't notice it while playing. Now, even though I bought this specifically for DP, I'm going to test this in various key counts, since we have so many options here, and that'll really give us a more generalized idea of what it's like playing on this. Starting with 24 key, absolutely not. Okay, it's playable, but any previous muscle memory you have is basically gone. Alright, so there's the reading distance, so seeing two notes far apart, and judging how far your hands have to travel, that's easy to get used to. But then there's the actual finger muscle memory. Because there's no black key protrusion, and these keys don't have indentations like this one does, it's easy to lose exactly where your finger is. I can kind of fill in between the gaps here and get an idea of where I'm at. But it's so different, and these keys barely have any travel. Because the keys are so shallow compared to an actual piano, I find it difficult to incorporate my thumb in a lot of these patterns. But again, it's small and you can reach a whole octave with just pinky and index. So yeah, overall it's playable, but you're not going to be playing these as well as you would with a normal piano. For the main key counts, the main thing I notice is just it uses a lot of stamina, and it's hard to get good accuracy, especially for hand stream charts and even long note stuff. Overall, I'm just playing a lot worse. I will say that having this extra verticality does feel nice, but that combined with the zero travel distance and wobbly, flat keycaps just makes this a net negative. One pattern that does feel nice to play on this is chord jacks. Because of the membrane, there's a little bit of bounce to it, and hitting really hard gives nice feedback. Just listen. But yeah, my performance is just so much better on my main keyboard, and that's probably a more important aspect of a keyboard than how it feels. For all of the lower key counts between 4 and 10, this form factor would be excellent to play on, as you wouldn't fat finger the keys so much, but with those key counts, actuation distance, feedback, and pulling rate are the main things that matter when playing. So unless a specific device like this comes out, it's almost always better to play on a normal mechanical keyboard. When it comes to playing DP, I think I prefer playing on this. My playstyle in fingering is very particular in this playstyle, as I specifically avoid using my thumbs, unless this pattern shows up, which 90% of the time I'm not hitting regardless. So having these flat keycaps makes it very comfortable when changing between the two rows. A lot of the times I'm just sliding my fingers between the two, and that's made possible with this low travel distance. If I try something like this on my main keyboard, then going down seems to work, but going up is impossible due to the elevation change here. When I switch between the two devices, I often notice how sharp and angular most of these keycaps are, and that's something I don't really like about playing DP, even though I get used to it after a while. The NanoKey2 feels way more fluid, smooth, and gives me freedom to be more expressive. I don't have to worry about fat fingering the wrong keys, as there's twice as much space. I feel like this is as close to a controller that you can get without actually buying one, unless there's some other bigger MIDI device that I don't know about. Alright, to wrap it up, I'm going to go over a few issues and my conclusion with this device. Due to the membrane nature and the travel distance of the keys, I don't recommend using this as your main device. There's just so many better options regarding switches, form factor, not even mentioning the price. This is also a MIDI device, meaning it won't work on Eterna or Osu natively. I tried that MIDI to key program. It's a pain to set up and I was getting a lot of delay. Soundsphere and Beataraja have MIDI support, so there's no issue there. Also, I like to keep track of my keyboard statistics, and key taps on this would not be registered, understandably. So yeah, my only use case for this is DP, and since I'm not much of a good player yet, I'm not concerned about polling rate issues or discrepancies in accuracy, if there are any, and I don't really have a good way of testing that. It's just always goofy when I go back to the keyboard and immediately crush any scores set with this, even though I prefer playing on it. If I had to guess, the travel distance is the main thing that's screwing me up, as I'm really sensitive to that sort of thing. I don't mind the membrane feeling here, as I use O-rings anyway, and the longer keycaps is the main benefit I'm getting. If we could reimagine this device and optimize it for Mania, I'd probably have the same size keycaps, but with a slight indentation or curvature for good fingering. Travel distance of at least 4mm, but with mechanical switches, but also some sort of gasket mound underneath that gives it that bouncy membrane feeling. And maybe some sort of interface that lets it be used in keyboard mode or MIDI mode to work with various software. And there we go, a nice ergonomic keypad that also provides a lot of performance benefits of most mechanical keyboards. Anyway, I'm leaning towards not returning this, just because I already spent the money, and it's small, out of the way most of the time, so if I'm ever playing DP on streams, you might see this again.